Welcome to the 43rd Python tutorial. In this video, we are going to dive deep into the strings data structure in Python. And we're going to see how they work behind the scenes in all of our programs. A string in Python is a sequence of characters enclosed in a single quote, a double quote, or even triple quotes. For simple, we have greeting is equal to hello world. Now we want to print the greeting. So when we run it, as you can see, it prints hello world. Now this could even work even if we kept a single quote and a single quote at the end. When you run it, it will still work. Now if you kept triple quotes and triple quotes at the end, once again, it would still work. But there's one thing you must keep in mind over here. If you end with a triple quote at the start, you cannot end with a double quote at the end. It will result in an error because whatever quotes you start with, the same quotes must be at the end. So if I were to put a single quote at the start and a double quote at the end, it would still result in an error. If I were to put a double quote, print, and we were to put a double quote over here or triple quote and run it, it would still result in an error. So now when you run it, it's still coming up as an error. If I were to put double quotes, it will still come up into an error. So the thing you have to understand over here is that whatever quote you start with, you have to keep the same quotes at the end. Also, single quotes are normally used to denote a single character, like single quote A. It's only used to denote a single character. And triple quotes are often used for multi-line, such as triple quotes. Then I can say, hello, hello, world. This is what they're generally used for. So when you run it, hello and world prints in two separate lines. Now, there is one very big property about strings. Strings are immutable, which means once they are created, they cannot be changed. Over here, we have our name as Alex, and we want to take the 0th index. If you're wondering why we're counting from 0, always remember that that computers always count from 0. So A occupies the 0th position or the 0th index. It wouldn't occupy the first position or the first index. So over here we want to change the 0th index into a B. So we put name, we put square brackets because that denotes that we're trying to index a value, and we put 0 inside of it. So we're telling the computer that we want this value A to become B. But as we discussed before, strings are immutable. Once they are created, they cannot be changed. So this means you cannot change a single character in a string. But if you want to modify it, you must create a new one. So if I were to put name square root 0 is equal to B, and then we run it, as you can see, it tells us type error. Name is equal to Alex, name 0, this will cause an error, type error. So it says that string object does not support item assignment. Therefore, these are some things that do not go along with the string type variables. Now, if you really wanted to change your string, instead of editing the same string, you can make Python build a new one under the hood. That's what immutability means. So if you would have name over here as Alex, and you want the new name to be Blex, so you start it with a B, and you want Lex after it. So you take the name, and you want only the Lex part of the name. So if you were to count 0, 1, so we want it to start from the index position of 1 till the last index, which need not be specified. That's why we just put empty, nothing over here. But we define our starting index as 1, which is L. So when we print the new name is equal to B plus name. As you can see, it tells us Blex. As we discussed before, each character in the string has a position or an index, and you can access them using square brackets. So over here we have text is equal to Python. Text 0 will always print the first letter, as we discussed before. Computers always start counting from 0. So it is the indexing. The indexing always starts at 0. So if you were to just count all the indexes, P would be 0, Y would be 1, T would be 2, H would be 3, O would be 4, and N would be 5. But there's also one special thing over here, negatives. Negatives means we're counting from the end. Yes, negative indexes count from the end. So if I were to put -1, it would start counting backwards. So -1 would be N. So when I run this code, as you can see, it tells us P and N. Now, what if you want a specific part of your string? In the string Python, you only wanted YTH, or you only wanted PYT, or you only wanted HON. You can do that with the method we call as slicing. So slicing gives you full control, where you can grab substrings or you can extract a string which you want, which is inside another string. First, to slice, we just put them in the square brackets. That's a number one rule when you're using indexes. And we keep the starting position. So if you wanted to print YTH, our starting position would be 1, because this is 0 and this is 1. Now we want YTH. But if you look at this properly, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So wouldn't you just print 1:3? Well, this is where Python changes a bit. Python always takes the value but subtracts it by 1. So if I were to put 3, so 3 minus 1, it'll only give us 2. So it'll become 1:3, which actually refers to 1:2. And that's why it'll give us a output of YT. But we want YTH. So you'll just go on the safe side and give it 1:4. Therefore, you will get YTH. And let's say you wanted PYT. You don't generally have to give a starting index when you always want the first letter in the string. You can just leave it empty because Python only gives it a value of 0. So whenever you see any value that is empty over here, Python already knows what value to give it. And inside the Python code, inside the machine code filled with 0 and 1s, this value already has 0 as the value. So it goes PYT. If you wanted to print the end, once again the same rule applies. Python already knows that whenever after colon there's nothing, you're referring to it as 0. So when you run out of this, as you can see, YTH, PYT, HON. Now we're going to look at some common string operations. First we have A and B, each referring to two strings. Now we want to check how we can join them. This is why we use the add sign, the plus sign. I know this looks like a number operator which uses an integers, numbers, but it can also be used in strings. This is known as concatenation. This is used to join the strings. Now we have A asterisk. If you look back before, asterisk actually means multiplication. We use it to multiply two numbers. But over here, we're multiplying hello with 3. So what this does, it just prints hello 3 times. So hello, hello, hello. Next, you want to check if something is inside a string or not. This is known as membership. So you have E in A. Is E in A? Yes, it is. So this will print true or something else. Z not in B. This is where you check whether a letter is not in something. So what if you want to invert this, you can just think of it as not Z in B. So a Z in B, it is false. And as we saw before, not just inverts the thing. So false becomes true. So this will give us true. So when you run all of this, at first we see hello world, hello, 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 true and true. Now, we're going to go back to something we've learned quite a long time ago, the escape character. So before we saw that slash n is used to give a new line. But what about things like the escape character itself? What if you wanted to print double quotes in a sentence that only has double quotes to enclose it? If I were to just print without an escape character, Python would only think this part is a string, and a computer cannot understand anything else. So it would think all of this is rubbish, and it will result in an error. So when I run this line, it prints an error. This is why we use escape characters. To tell Python, this is not used to delimit the string, but this itself is part of a string. And we also want to use it at the end. And now when we run it, line 1, line 2, it makes a new line between. And then we can say quotes and quotes. And it does not result into an error. If you learned something new in this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button for more programming tutorials.